I mean, it also shows, I'm not sure if it's reflective of what he was going through, but certainly the company lost a lot of faith in his ability to lead with a product like that in the company. I think he actually, just like Steve Jobs, was ousted from his own company a little bit later down the line, but due in large part to the failure of that product launch.
And Steve Jobs was not happy about that. He was like, that's the single dumbest thing that any of them could ever do.
And then it happened to him too. All right.
Yo, welcome back to another Founders Drive. It's back to being me and you after we had our guests.
That's right. Hopefully you guys watched that episode. That was awesome. To get a third person in the car, and
it was different perspective, different look. We got to explore his story. But for those who are unaware, Founders Drive is for the people that want to study success and want to get a better understanding about the people in history that have found success in their specific domain. We've seen a range of people from various backgrounds all find their version of success, and Founders Drive is finding out about the drive behind that ambition
while we drive.
While we drive. So there's a couple different plays on this. Before we get started, though, like every episode, this is brought to you by Consents.com. The number one mini site in the world. The number one mini site in the world.
Number one, literally.
And the number one AI powered mini site in the world.
They ain't got it. We got it.
We got some tricks on there. But it's the number one AI powered mini site in the world. It's the site that sells while you sleep. It's the mini site that makes you money, and it's the site that will help you on your path, help you get started on your path to entrepreneurship. So check it out, Consents.com. You can join our Founders Drive community on there. Consents.com/Founders Drive, where we host our episodes. We have our transcripts and our study notes, and soon we're going to be having our AI.
That's right, where you can
AI chatbot.
Go through all of the learnings that we've had through all of our episodes with one easy to use interface.
So, with that being said, Founders Drive. Founders Drive and Edwin Land.
That's a fun one. I can't wait for that. I mean, this is going to be interesting because he's one of those. I'm not going to go. One of these people that had a very scholarly start, a very scholarly, like in the lab making up this brand new synthetic material that the world's never seen before, and then had to commercialize it.
Well, you say scholarly, but it's kind of ironic because even though he was studying at a very early age, he ended up dropping out because he felt like he wasn't able to do what he wanted to do.
That's right.
So Edwin Land's story starts, where was he born again? Was it Massachusetts?
I want to say Cambridge, or no. I think it was Massachusetts. I don't know the exact city.
Well, we can get that going right there. But he got started pretty early. It was
1909.
Based in Connecticut.
Oh, that's what it was.
Bridgeport, Connecticut. He died in Cambridge, Massachusetts. He spent a lot of time there as well too. But he was born in 1909, and he, if you couldn't tell by the name, and he had an early exposure to technology, and decided early on that he wanted to work with light. Decided actually that he wanted to polarize, work on the polarizing problem very, very early on. I think it was maybe when he was 13 years old.
Like a lot of the founders we look at have some kind of really either traumatic or enlightening experience around that 13-year-old age.
Well, even the childhood shapes how they end up. One thing that I've noticed is that it's not always traumatic. I mean, I think of the last few founders we had have been kind of like meh, but there's also like just a blood meat childhood. But then there's a lot, to your point, that have had some huge influence or traumatic experience that basically set them up to think about the world differently and approach or focus on specific problems.
And back in 1909 and 1920s, that was a huge problem too, was like light and glare. And that kind of stuff, which is like wild to think about now, where it's like we have sunglasses and all these things that are just like common. But that was like killing people. They would like get blinded by headlights, and they would like go off the road.
So He actually used that later as a catalyst to focus his team.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, hey, a lot of people are dying because there's a whole bunch of light coming from oncoming traffic.
Yeah.
How do we fix this? So Edwin Land is really interesting because he's this very there's not a lot of published information on him, considering how big his contribution was and how prolific he was. In terms of patents, 535 patents, one of the third most, I think, to an individual
and the most at his time, I believe, was like,
I think next to Thomas Edison.
Which is like wild to think about.
But he basically, and this is kind of foreshadowed, but he basically destroyed all of the information that was related to his story and his come up because of later happenings in his life that just frustrated him. But early on, he said, hey, I want to work with light, I'm obsessed with it, and I'm going to do whatever I can. And so the problem right now is that everybody in the industry just didn't believe that what he wanted to do was viable.
You're inventing something that the world's never seen before, ever.
And he was thinking about this from such an early age, where he was like, okay, no, this is what I want to do, and this is where I'm going. And so that was the main thing. So what he did is he studied up, and he was like, I'm gonna get into the best schools where I can go and study this information. And he does. He gets to the point where he gets into Harvard at 17,
which is great.
But then
not there long. He basically goes through the entire library. What can I get on? Optics, physics, light, spectrum, all that stuff.
This is all I care about.
Let me just read everything the library has to offer, because now that you're in, you have access to that knowledge.
And he's sorely disappointed. He's like, none of these guys can even imagine us fixing this impossible solution. And so he developed an antagonistic relationship with the impossible very early on. And it was either you're for me or you're against me. And a lot of the people at Harvard were like, we're going to stick on the side of impossible. You can have your shot at polarizing light. And he ended up saying, okay, well, if that's the case, I'm going to leave. And so he's not making any money at the time. Has this hunger for understanding this problem around light and polarizing light. And he ends up moving to New York, and to continue his research. And so when he's at New York, he ends up, there's some like famous stories that come out of this era, because he's
broke. Essentially.
And he's like, all right, well, I need access to the equipment.
And
which is kind of funny, because I'm sure that there was equipment at
Harvard.
But he ends up sneaking in and breaking into the labs at Columbia, while also devouring everything in the New York Public Library on light, optics. But that's where he basically continued his education. He didn't let his school stop his education.
Or a locked door.
Or a locked door. And the funny thing about that is, down the road, after he was super famous as an inventor, he would always tell the story about how he would break into the labs, and they eventually just said, we're going to give you an honorary doctorate. So the lesson to take away from this is, if you break into labs and you get away with it by becoming a famous inventor or entrepreneur, then you'll probably get a doctorate. There's more than one path to getting your doctorate.
Exactly. It's like, if you break into a place and you don't invent anything the world hasn't seen before, you probably will go to jail.
Probably, yes.
But if you invent something the world's never seen before on borrowed time, they'll love you for it.
Exactly. So you have to break in, not get caught,
and do something amazing.
Exactly. And do something of not just amazing, of crazy influence that changes the world tangibly.
Right.
You have to be Steve Jobs' influence.
I mean, you have to be that good.
You have to be that good. And then you'll probably get your honorary doctorate. So you can study hard, or you can go the unconventional route.
That's one thing to learn from Founders Drive. Is one path for you.
Well, I will say, as a little bit of a segue, most of the people that we see here are, I think almost everybody is unconventional in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've found one person who's been like, that's the way that everybody does it, and I'm going to do it that way.
Right.
But I also feel like when you push hard enough to when you're shooting for success, there's never really a blueprint for extreme success by definition. And you start getting out there on the fringes, and there's less of a guide towards that. And I think the people that there's just various different ways. I think there's people that have found an early guide that have helped them steer them in the right direction, whether that's their parent or an early mentor or influence. But there's just so many different, paths and avenues that I've seen.
Right.
That it's hard to create a course around this stuff and teach it. And I think, really not just, bigging up Founders Drive and similar podcasts that are like this, but I think that's why when you look at somebody like Charlie Munger, and he would say, you have to study the people. If I had to come up with a curriculum on business, I would say study the people, study their use cases, study what happened to them really, not what people think happened.
Yeah.
And follow that, because that's where you're gonna learn the real, and not learn the summarized conclusion that was put in a business textbook.
Right, and that's what we like to do here too, is try and find those nuggets of things that you won't see on some of these other mediums, and call that out as stuff that is important.
You learn like the counterintuitive knowledge, the counterintuitive information. You learn what to be focused on and what not to be, and that just compounds. And the thing too is like you develop a whole bunch of different reference points that show up. So I think Edwin, and again, he's one of those unconventional types, but I think that it's really dope because he's not the only one.
Yeah. And so like in this lab, right, that he's developing this polarizing material, we can maybe touch on what a polarized material is.
Yeah, shoot.
It's essentially, he has these crystals in a plastic that can orient light waves, because waves are, light waves are kind of, they have what do you call them, peaks and troughs, and then they're coming from all different directions. And essentially what you can do with these crystals is you put them in plastic in a really thin film, you can only allow one direction of light to come through. And so that's essentially what a polarizing material is you're polarizing the light to only be of, one length. And so, this is actually applied today everywhere.
Everywhere.
Like
glasses, windshields,
everything.
Lights.
Everything, yeah. I mean, there's so much application for that. And you can tell that you have polarizing lenses or polarizing film on it if you, turn it 90 degrees and the screen goes away.
Yeah.
You can kind of see that stuff. And so, it's revolutionary. The kind of thing he was able to build and make in a lab at around 20 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so ingrained, like it's everywhere. It's ubiquitous right now, to the point where we use it in so many different things that we almost like take it for granted at this point.
100%.
But I don't even think that was his biggest invention.
Most people, that would have been a full life. You invented something the world's never seen before. Yeah. And it's got all these applications and can be this helpful. Most people would be like, wow, that's enough for one man to do.
Exactly. And then he was like, no, I'm gonna keep my foot on the gas. And after he gets his big win with the light polarizer, he ends up to what you're talking about, saying, okay, now we're gonna go out here and turn this into a commercial product. We're gonna turn this into something that people can use, and there's real problems that we can solve in the world, and we're gonna go make some money off it.
It's something that is a little hard to do. There are camps like University of Michigan, that's local here, that have technology that they're trying to commercialize. And it's very hard to then say, okay, we're gonna take this from the lab and then go into real products and sell it as a company. But that was essentially what Polaroid did.
Yeah, and that just that shows me that there's a real part of the product building that's not highlighted enough. We've talked about this from the jump, but this just continues to be more and more true to me, is how like the messaging is part of the product, the framing is part of the product, perception is part of the product.
100%.
And I don't you ask Edwin Land, and this is something that I was like, is he'll say the product is just what it is.
Yeah.
But he also at the same time was somebody who went to great lengths to unveil his products and reveal his products. And so if you read it on the front, you might be, and you read one of his throwaway quotes of the product should stand on its own, and if it's not, it's a shit product. There's truth to that in some regard, but you have to define what a product is, and you find out the product is more than just the item or the widget. It's the moment. It's the, you know.
And look at his actions. His actions don't really show that same thing.
Right? Like,
which is something we bring up on this podcast quite a bit.
It's like you pay attention to that and you see, oh, okay, there's something that's missing here. And I think it's something that I kind of brought up a little bit earlier, but this is a perfect moment to, I think, introduce it, is you can tell because you see Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs, this was one of his somebody held in high regard, I think.
Yes.
Disney and Land, that were two people that he one time he was saying to John Scully, the guy that eventually ended up kicking him out of Apple, he was telling him that he met with Edwin Land when he was, you know, in his later years.
Yeah.
And he was like, that guy is a national treasure.
A national treasure.
Steve Jobs saying that he's a national treasure, not Joe Rogan saying Tim Dillon's a national treasure.
Which is still true.
But Steve Jobs saying Edwin Land is a national treasure, and that's him holding him in high esteem. And he was like, it's a shame that he's not a model for people.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a shame that we don't prop him up and give him his flowers. But, you know, again, you go and find out that it was kind of his own doing too. He didn't really.
Yeah, that's definitely later on. I mean, I know making the material was big, and then he had to start a couple companies, eventually starting Polaroid, which ended up being the next setup for his next success.
Yeah, and around that time, so this is around the 30s to like 1945, it's around World War II. Yep. And the war ended up being a huge like accelerant for his success, because he was making what was like the camera culture at the time, scientific instruments.
Yeah, they used to have these bomber glasses.
Yeah,
where they'd give it to pilots, so they wouldn't miss their target. Yeah, because it was polarized lens. So basically, sunglasses.
Yeah. Yeah, basically, right. And so they had so many things there: infrared, night vision goggles. Yep. And all of that was really the setup, for him as a main defense contractor. But then this, like you said, ended up setting him up for the next problem that he ran into, which was
instant photography as we know it today.
Yeah. So he's off in, where was he at this point?
He was on vacation with his daughters, I believe.
In Santa Fe. It's 1943. Yeah. And it was his daughter Jennifer, about 3 years old, and they're walking. And how did it go again? She says, why can't I see the picture now? I know that's a punchline.
We're like right in the middle of this technology shift, because we don't have instant photography. We don't have the cheap little plastic camera that you can wind and then press, then, you know, see what's going on. It was essentially the technology that you'd have to
go to the dark room.
Yeah, you'd have to like wind it, take it, and then you'd have to ship it off to somewhere else, have them develop it and send it back to you in the mail, which could take weeks, depending on how busy the place is. And so he's taking pictures that way with his daughter, and she's like, why can't I see the photo right now? You just took it of me. Yeah. Well, I don't want to wait for some guy in a different state to get this back to us. Why can't I see it right now?
Yeah. 3 years old, is just saying this, you know, exactly like that.
And and most people, I feel like, are going to be like, listen, you're 3 years old. You don't understand how the world works. Yeah. Stop asking me these crazy questions about why this can't be like this. Yeah. But Edwin's like, no, I'm gonna go figure this out.
So he takes a walk,
an hour-long walk.
Yeah. And just to figure it out. Just thinking. He's like, you know what? I think I have the idea formed in his head. And that ended up being his next ambition. Yeah. Where he'd spend, you know, however many years to go and bring this idea that he had to life. And again, that led to him basically creating instant photography.
Yeah.
Polaroid.
A photo where you could literally take the photo and it would print out on a sheet, like your classic Polaroid. Like I've been to a couple weddings this summer where that's like the thing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we're gonna get an old Polaroid camera that you can like take out and like put in a scrapbook, and so that is the technology that was his next big success,
which he developed, which is crazy because it's like it's this retro thing now.
Right. It's coming back into style now. Yeah. And this was they started with a single retail store in Boston, where they were like, all right, we'll produce like 50 or so machines. Let's just hope that they sell a couple.
Yeah.
And and this is again what you were talking about in terms of the product not just being the product. They had a demo where he was actually able to take a photo of himself
and have it develop
in the moment, where he's now looking at himself of the photo he just took, which is very powerful marketing.
Yeah, he takes that picture, they reveal it, it's dead quiet.
Yeah.
And then everybody just erupts. And they're like, okay, this is crazy. Like this is one of those moments. And
they sold out.
Yeah.
Even the product that he was using to demo his own picture with, he sold that one too.
Yeah.
Like that's the kind of frenzy that Steve Jobs had when he unveiled his products. Even Microsoft to a certain extent, and some of these other founders have that frenzy of like, okay, this is going viral essentially.
And it started here where it's like, okay, I don't need any of the other bells and whistles. I need a stage, I need a product, and I need their attention, and let me cook.
Yeah.
And he created a moment. He created a moment and a reveal that, you know, set up the way that people do demos today, especially like those big stage
the good
demos.
ones. Yeah. The good ones.
Yeah. So it was pretty incredible at the first, you know, that to me that's like the first arc of his life, the polarizer and getting sent on that quest, or that's basically putting himself on that quest.
Yeah.
And then the apex of him creating instant photography and then unveiling that and changing the world.
Would you say everything's downhill from there?
No, I would not say that.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say in fact it's actually uphill. So he comes back and it's 1948. He's on top of the world. They're killing it, and he I was actually about to jump into the polarization. But that's kind of like towards the end of his
I would say that is a downhill thing, but I think like they just ended up becoming the Polaroid company, which is what, you know, they were famous for.
Well, a big thing that ended up happening with him is he's on top of the world, but now everybody's starting to copy what they're doing.
Yeah.
And he's big into patents. Like a lot of people right now look down on them. I don't think a lot of people respected them as much as they did back then. But he used his patents as a moat to protect his intellectual property, but then also to go on the aggressive and put pressure on companies that were competing and just trying to jump into the market that he had just created.
And he was largely successful because his patents covered pretty much 100% of the instant camera.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's people that are going to try and push those limits, and they did. Kodak being one of them. But yeah, I mean that was a time and place where you could actually defend your patents, which I feel like has definitely fallen off a little bit now. The patents that I see defended are like crazy, like Sony patents that are like hundreds of millions of dollars in restitution. But yeah, very interesting time to say like I'm going to moat my entire business with patents.
Yeah, and he did. Like to the extent
pretty successfully.
Yeah, and that was his play. There's so there's a lot of going back and forth between Kodak and other companies, but the biggest thing that I think happened around this time is he ended up developing his next big thing, which was going to be the instant video. And that was the thing where he was working on that for some time. It was probably like a decade where he was working on instant video. And right before he released, Betamax came out and VHS came out.
Right.
And they had way better features. They had basically like hours of recorded video. They had you had the ability to re-record on your videos. There was sound.
That's the biggest one. I think personally is sound. And then you think about Polavision, and it had 3 minutes of recorded video, no sound, and I don't think you could re-record on your record on your cassette. And needless to say, one was way better than the other. Yes.
So it was just a huge loss for him, and it kind of like started to spell out the end of his career, because he lost a lot of confidence in his ability to develop products and kind of see around corners.
100%.
Or at least that's what that miss, had people thinking.
Well, I mean, it also shows, I'm not sure if it's a reflective of what he was going through, but certainly the company lost a lot of faith in his ability to lead with a product like that in the company. I think he actually, just like Steve Jobs, was ousted from his own company a little bit later down the line, but due in large part to the failure of that product launch.
And Steve Jobs was not happy about that. He was like, that's the single dumbest thing that any of them could ever do.
Yep, and then it happened to him too.
But like also back then it was
also stupid.
Very true. And they realized that they brought it back and took the company to crazy heights.
Right.
But I think like a lot of the people back then it wasn't as much like, especially around late 70s, early 80s, it wasn't founder-led companies weren't the hype. It was more, institutional, bureaucracy, the organization is the thing that people leaned into.
Yeah, it's also a totally different time, and we're talking suit and ties to work. We're talking like a totally different time than now. But
these big phones and big machines,
smoking in the office. Everyone is just we got ashtrays in the bathroom.
You can't work here, Edwin. You're done. You'll never work a day in your life here again.
You see?
I started this thing. You see?
Yeah, I mean, it is terrible though, because I think he was still one of the greatest minds of that time in terms of product launches, marketing, and just the inventive mindset to bring something into the world that's never been seen before.
Yeah, but he took all of his information and his history at Polaroid after he ended up getting ousted, and he just destroyed it.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, if you can't, if you don't want me to be a part of it now, then I was never a part of it.
Yeah.
And threw his little tantrum, and it's like, dang, now we don't have all of this Edwin Land material.
Right.
But I can see it. He felt like it was ripped away from him, and he
retaliated. Essentially,
he got mad about it.
He did have a period there before he ended up passing where he actually provided a lot of insight into like his theory on how the brain perceives color. And that actually, I think, paves the way for a lot of people today, like doing research on top of what he was doing. I didn't get too much into. I think it's called like the reflexive theory of how the brain interprets color. Very interesting stuff, because he just had that inquisitive mind of how do things work and how can we understand these things.
Do you have any? Is there like a high level explanation that you could have?
I don't know, but I do. What I read was that some of the stuff that he was doing was instrumental, specifically going back to the wartime for developing the United States U-2 plane. So the spy planes that we used to have, that, and we still have them, but they're way better, to be able to do like essentially satellite photos, aerial photography. Without sending satellites up, you can get up to 90,000 feet and take beautiful photos of your enemies. Essentially, it was instrumental in developing some of that stuff. And he just formalized it as a theory later on.
That's so intriguing. Yeah, I haven't. I know him now as an entrepreneurial figure, and of course, like with everybody else that we've talked about, we've continued to explore and learn, behind, like after we talk about our initial episode here.
Right.
But with him, it's so interesting because he is somebody who was commercially a giant, but he was also an inventor.
Exactly.
And introduced ways of doing things that are just unrivaled. Like there was and he wasn't really pressing on certain things. Like he wanted to be so in like another bracket where they were working on some stuff similar to Xerox, I think, with photocopying.
Yep.
And Xerox ended up releasing it before they released theirs, and they were just like, oh well, I guess on to the next. You know?
Which is like Xerox went on to be huge, and so somebody else in that role might be like, oh, we'll compete with them.
Yeah.
We'll keep pushing. We'll keep doing these things. But they're like, nah. What else can we invent? What else can we make? What else can we do that's unique? And I think that's also something that we've heard a little bit, like when we did Peter Thiel and stuff like that. Is some of these people are saying like, find the thing that you won't have any competitors with.
Yeah. The moat.
Yes. Yeah. Go where there's no competition.
Yeah.
Competition's for losers.
Competition is for losers.
This is the quote there, and you can do that if you invent something brand new and you have patents around it. You can essentially make it, competitionless.
Yeah. Well, he ended up winning the patent fight against Kodak, and I think it was awarded. Was it right before he died or right after he died?
Somewhere around there, I believe.
But it was like $925 million that they were ordered to pay.
Yeah. And
they weren't allowed to make the instant cameras as well.
Right.
But that was the largest award at the time.
Yes.
And he felt very. I think it was before he passed.
It must have been, right?
Yeah.
It started that whole like giant sums of money that we're going to pay for patent infringement.
Yeah. Yeah. And he but that's the thing that he was very shrewd about business, and he was just an inventor. He was a knowledge geek. Like, he wanted to learn and understand. And to me, it's like what he delivered here. I don't know why it keeps coming to my mind, but I keep thinking of somebody like Claude Shannon.
Okay.
Where these giants that just
inventors,
the world, and came up with a completely unique way of looking at the world based off of science.
Yeah. I like that, but I also like the showmanship, the P.T. Barnum aspects of this. Like, for anyone watching, you can go on YouTube and you can find The Long Walk, or A Long Walk, whatever it's called, with Edwin H. Where he takes you on a helicopter ride through his different factories he's building, the different job sites he has, and you can see there's like a component of what would become the Apple conferences, the product launches. You can see little bits and pieces of that in A Long Walk with Edwin H. Land. And so I think it's a mix of both, the inventor side and the showmanship.
Yeah, it's like you wonder what, like, if Claude Shannon was like, I don't want to, like, I want to go and pursue the business side, and I want to be a showman. It's like, I mean, he would have been, his lore would have been crazy. It already is.
Right.
But it would have been insane because he had that inventive side in droves. But we can get a glimpse of that through an Edwin Land, where we see that, he did have a flair for creating moments and the reveals and everything that aligns there.
Yeah, Edwin Land, crazy. If you guys don't know about Edwin, take your time, go back and do some research, because like we kept saying, this is who inspired Steve Jobs.
A big inspiration.
Like, that's huge. Figure out who your heroes had as heroes and study them.
Yeah. We got a little bit left here. Should we rattle off
what you got?
Quotes?
What you got?
So on invention and impossibility, don't undertake a project unless it's manifestly important and nearly impossible. The bottom line is in heaven. It's not that we need new ideas, but we need to stop having old ideas.
Okay.
Industry is the reduction of a few precise principles.
I like those. I like those, yeah.
The old ideas, new ideas one is interesting. It feels more tangible, like we're holding on to old ideas.
Old ways of thinking.
Yeah.
Things that were impossible aren't actually impossible.
Yeah.
You just haven't thought about the way it works yet.
It's like, well, where do you even start with some of these things? Like, I think it is a little bit of a shame that he didn't document more of his, process, and basically got rid of all his ideas, because he, I don't know, stunted the people that followed behind him. But then I say that, but then you see Steve Jobs is in a shadow, and you're like, oh, okay, never mind.
There was a path there. It just wasn't as laid out in a book like you might see in a Charlie Munger or like a...
Well, one thing that really sticks out to me with Edwin Land is the arts and the sciences. That's something that I feel very resonant towards, is the standing at like that intersection between the arts and the sciences. And I don't see why that's not pushed enough. I guess there are some like arts and technology schools, but
they're definitely separate. They're definitely separate in the classical thinking of the world.
The way that people approach it in the institutionalized way. And I'm like, that's a miss, and that's a problem, because there's so much that can be taken from the
interdisciplinary.
arts. That is just, it's not. and to me it's a problem, but it's something that he was very, very, like, he really championed, and it's something that Steve Jobs took from him, amongst other things, and I think that it's something that more entrepreneurs should be more comfortable exploring.
Yes, taking from all walks of life, not just, oh, this isn't, I'm trying to apply that same engineering brain or same creative brain to all walks of life. You're gonna miss things.
Yeah.
And so that's actually really important. In my college, they had separate campuses for the different, oh, you're the soft sciences, oh, you're the engineering campus. It's like, what?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. And then going back to that, it was interesting because when you look at Steve Jobs, part of what he did is, and Elon Musk too, is just moving the design team next to the product team, and then that changed so much in terms of what actually ends up getting produced.
Yeah, instead of having to ship it across the wall or send it over the wall, it's like, no, we're gonna work in collaboration.
Throw it into the abyss. You're like,
it's their problem now.
Another thing I like about Edwin Land is his ideas on creativity and how he thought creativity was very much
like a skill
for the self and the individual. He was like, groups just they're not creative. It's actually the exact opposite. They fight creativity, especially left unchecked.
I like that. Okay, because there's like that group think. Of like, okay, we're going to conform. And when you're conforming and you're organizing that way, it's when you're organizing a company of people to do business. That's a fucking sentence that you're never going to hear, because everybody uses the words interchangeably. But when you're organizing a company of people to do business, then there's some sacrificing of perspectives and creative abilities. Just because there's a necessary compromise that has to take place when you're achieving a goal. And I think that that's just the default. I think if you're intentional about focusing and highlighting creativity and making creativity the goal, then that can, create a very fertile space for creative ideas. But if that's not the case, then, a lot of ideas can die. Yeah, and I also think there's a time and place for it. There are times when you need to be creative and you need to think outside the box, and then there are times when you need everyone rowing the same thing. You need everyone pulling their same weight, rolling the oars in the same direction. And so it's that balance, and I think the best are the ones that are able to achieve a really good balance, of the two.
And then he said, a couple more is creativity is the sudden cessation of stupidity. An essential aspect of creativity is not being afraid to fail. Say that way too much. And then politeness is the poison of all good collaboration in science.
That's a fun one. I like that one a lot. And then, so many times where you've had to be polite just to be polite.
And it's just like, I think what's his name said, David Ogilvy called it the tyranny of politeness. He's like, I want to foster a culture of candor that will stand against the tyranny of politeness. I'm like, ooh.
That's good. That's a bar.
And then the last one here that I think you'd like is science is a method to keep yourself from kidding yourself.
That is good. There's a lot of ground yourself in what you can reproduce. Ground yourself in your hypotheses and what you can actually prove to be true. Instead of being like, I think this is true.
And it's so interesting because, just unpacking that briefly, is that there's two lanes. It's like the scientists that are so extreme and rooted in their ways are always trying to stop somebody from kidding themselves. And it's like they relish that to the point where they lose all their creative impulse and their expressiveness. And then the artsy people are so concerned with expressing themselves that they don't ground it in a method that they can communicate with each other
or reproduce or have any sense of.
And and like the last thing that I'll leave on is I heard somebody say that science is a way to communicate to other people. It's not a way where you generate your ideas.
I like that.
And so you come up with your creative ideas that are brought to you, and then you put it through the scientific process so that way you can share it with other people, have other people review it and test it, and find your blind spots that you might have missed. And so I thought that was a really cool way of framing like how creativity and the arts can work with science.
That's some good stuff. hopefully you guys learned something here.
Yes.
Hopefully you guys now know about Edwin H. Land.
Yes.
Because that's a huge person in not only, I mean, American life, but like globally.
Yeah.
The polarizing film is huge. His influence on Steve Jobs was huge, and he like literally made the world a better place.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is fantastic. Anything else you want to wrap on?
No, the main thing is, again, just like I said at the top of the episode, this episode was brought to you by Constance.com.
Yes.
Constance is the #1 mini site in the world. It's the #1 AI-powered mini website in the world.
Very true.
And it's the site that sells while you sleep. It's the mini site that can make you money. It's easy to use, simple to set up, and that's where you can find us. Constance.com/foundersdrive. We have the resources that we use to prepare for this show, as well as different bites and information that are around these different founders that we put out. So we have our AI coming out soon, so check out that. And if you've gotten anything from this episode, like, subscribe, share, and don't just listen to this information. Go and try it out in the world.
Yes, act on it.
Yes. Catch you next time.
Peace.
Peace out.